Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back, everyone. In today's class, we're going to look at how the letters in Arabic appear when they are the first letter in a word, when they are at the start of a word. Previously, we've looked at all of the letters in the Arabic language, how they appear when they're by themselves, the sounds that each of those letters make, and also how those sounds slightly change depending on the harakat that go with those letters. The harakat, we said, was the vowels or diacritics. For example, the dhamma, which makes the u sound, the fatha, which makes the a sound, and the kasra, which makes the I sound. So today, again, we're going to look at how these letters appear when they are the first letter in a word. So let's start with the alif. So the alif is one of those letters that looks the same as when it is by itself or when it is at the start of a word. So no changes here. The alif looks exactly the same as when it is at the beginning of a word. However, something I'm going to mention now, which will become clearer as we go on in the class, it does not physically attach to the next letter in the word. So for example, if we write the letter lam, it will not physically attach to this letter. Okay, there will be a space between these two letters. Let's have a look at the other letters and this will become clearer, inshallah. So we have the ba, ta, and tha. So if you remember, we said that these three letters, they're in the same box. They have the same shape. They have the same shape. However, they just differed on how many dots they have and the placing or location of those dots. Okay, the ba has the singular dot below, the ta with the two above, and the tha with the three dots above it. So you can see that the original shape has changed slightly, or rather, the part that was here has been removed. It's been removed, and the reason why it's been removed is so that it can attach physically to the next letter in the word. All right, so the ba, it will attach from here physically to the next letter in the word. The ta will attach physically here, and the tha will attach physically here. So for example, the lam would come like this, the lam would come like this, and the lam here would be the same, okay? It will physically attach to these three letters, which is different, of course, from the alif, which we said cannot physically attach to the next letter or the second letter in a word. And then we have the next three letters, the jim, the ha, and kha. So these letters look slightly different from when they were by themselves. If you remember, the jim had a little thing going here, the same for the ha and the kha, all right? But that has been done away with. Why? So that the jim can physically attach to the next letter here, the ha can physically attach to the next letter here, and the kha will physically attach to the next letter here. All right, so again, we could just attach the lam to the end of each of these letters. Apologies, handwriting's not the best today. And then we have these two letters, the dal and dhal. The dal and the dhal. So these two letters, they look exactly the same as when they are by themselves. All right, the dal and the dhal, they look exactly the same. They preserved their original shape exactly as when they are by themselves. So this should tell us that they cannot attach physically to the next letter in the word. The second letter of a word that starts with the dal or the dhal will not physically attach to either of these two letters. So for example, if we use the lam, then it will not physically attach to either of these two letters. Okay, let's look at the second row. We have the ra and the zay. The ra and the zay, which we said are the same shape, just that the zay has a dot above it. The ra and the zay are the same as their original form when they are singular, when they are by themselves, not part of a word, which should tell us immediately that what? It cannot physically attach to the next letter in the word. Okay, when the ra and the zay are the first letter of a word, then the second letter will not physically attach to it. All right, it will not physically attach to it. So, for example, with the lam, it will be like this, will not be physically attached. Then we have the sin and the sheen. So if you remember, the sin is had like a little hook thing attached to it, okay? But that has been done away with. Why? It's so that the sin can physically attach to the next letter from here, like this with the lam, okay? And the same for the sheen. The sheen will physically attach to the next letter here as well, all right? So the sin and the sheen. And then we have the sad and the dad. The sad and the dad. They look slightly different from the original form. It's just the ending part has been removed. And why is that? Again, it's so that it can physically attach to the second letter of the word. Okay? It's so that it can physically attach to the next letter of the word. And then we have the ta and the va. So the ta and va, they look pretty much the same as when they are by themselves. However, they've got this small little tail at the end of both of them. And why is that there? That is there, of course, you guessed it, so they can physically attach to the next letter in the word. Okay? So that's the ta and the va. Here we have the ayn and ghayn. So these two look quite different from their original singular forms. The ayn looks like this, and the ghayn looked like this, okay, with the dot above it. So what's happened here? What's happened here is they just got rid of this part at the bottom, okay? Just got rid of this part at the bottom. And as you guessed it, because I put the line here, the ayn will physically attach to the next letter from this point here, and the ghayn will attach physically to the next letter here. Just like if we had a lam here and a lam here. All right? Let's look at the last row of letters. So here we have the fa. The fa. So the fa looks very similar to how it was originally. It's just removed this little bit that goes up. And why has that been removed? It's so that it can physically attach to the next letter in the word here. Okay, so the fa, it will physically attach to the next letter here, like that, like with the lam. And then we have the qaf. And the qaf is very similar to the shape of the fa. When the qaf is the first letter in a word, then it is very similar to the shape of the fa. Okay? The major difference being that it will have two dots above it rather than the one that the fa has. And the qaf will attach to the next letter here. Okay? It will attach to the next letter at this point here. And then we have the kaf. So the kaf is one of those that also looks pretty different to how it was by itself. The kaf looked like this when it was just a singular standalone letter. But when it's the first letter in a word, then it looks like this. Okay, so it changes quite a bit. The shape changes quite a bit, and then we get rid of this little symbol that was in the middle of it. So we get rid of that, and the kaf, it would join to the next letter here. All right, so when the kaf is the first letter in a word, it will join to the next letter from here, like the lam joining physically here. All right. And then we have the lam, which we've been using throughout as our example of a letter joining to the previous one. So the lam looks like this. It looks very similar to how it is when it's by itself. Okay. Just that it's got this shortened flick at the end. And the lam can also join physically with another letter. For example, it can join with another lam, okay? It can join physically to another lam. And then we have the letter mim. Mim. So, as you may remember, the mim, it had this exact same shape here at the start, but then it would go down, okay? There was like a little line that would go down from the mim. But because the mim physically attaches to the next letter in the word, then it will get rid of that long line that went below, and here it will join with the second letter of the word, okay? So when the mim is at the beginning, when it's the first letter in a word, it will look like this, and it will physically join to the second letter of the word. And then we have the noon. We have the noon. So the noon looks the same as the ta, ba, and tha. It has the same shape as those three letters that we looked at the start of this class. So let's just quickly go back and have a look. As you can see, the ba has this shape here. The ta also has this shape. And the tha has this shape. But the ba, we know this is a ba because it has a singular dot below it. The ta, we know it's a ta because it has the 2 dots above it. And the tha has the 3 dots above it. And the noon has a singular dot above it. So that's how we can differentiate between those 4 letters, even though they have the same shape. Just the positioning and number of dots. So the noon has the same shape as the ba, ta, and tha. However, it just preserves its singular dot above the letter. And you guessed it, it attaches physically to the next letter in the word. And then we have the ha. So the ha looks quite different from its original form. It looked something like this. Forgive me, it's not the best handwriting. But it looked something like this, okay? Kind of like an O shape. But when it's the starting letter in a word, when it is not a singular letter by itself, but rather the starting letter of a word, then it takes on this shape, okay? It takes on this shape, which we write like this, okay? It takes on this shape. So, what does it do? It joins physically to the next letter in the word at this point here, okay? So, for example, we can put another lam, okay? And this is a word in Arabic, hel, which we won't go into right now. And then we have the letter waw. We have the letter waw. So the letter waw, it looks exactly the same as when it is what? By itself. It looks exactly the same as when it's by itself. So you tell me, the answer is it does not physically attach to the next letter in the word. Okay, we've seen that all of the letters that look the same when they're either by themselves or at the beginning of a word, then they cannot physically attach to the second letter in the word. Okay, they cannot physically attach to it. So if we used a lam, for example, then it will be like this. It will not physically attach to the waw. And lastly, we've got the ya. So the ya, when it's the starting letter of a word, it also has the exact same shape as the ba, ta, tha, and the nun. It has the same shape as all four of those letters. However, the ya preserves its two dots that go beneath the letter. The ya preserves its two dots that go beneath the letter. So you will probably find that when you're trying to memorize all of these letters, that the ba, ta, tha, nun, and finally the ya, they will be quite difficult to remember. Why? Because they have the same shape. The only difference between them is the number and the positioning of dots. Okay, that's the only difference between those letters when they are at the start of a word. Okay, so inshallah, these things will just become easier with repetition. So that's all of the letters, how they look when they are at the start of a word. Okay, and we're quickly going to have a look at, or rather just remind ourselves of the different sounds that they can make depending on the harakat that go with the letter. So with the sad, if I put a dhamma above it, then what sound would this sad make? It would make the su sound. Su. Okay? And the dad, if I put a fatha above it, it would make the da sound. Da. Okay? So it's exactly the same as when the letters by itself, nothing changes in terms of its sound. Okay? It's just the appearance of the letter that is different. The sounds that it would make and how they would change depending on the harakat is exactly the same. And we'll look at some more just to emphasize this point. The ta and dha. If we put a kasra beneath the ta, then it would be the ta sound plus the e sound, and it would become ti. Ti. Okay? And the dha with the dhamma above it would be, what would it be? Dhu. Okay? It's the dha sound with the u sound combined. So it would become dhu. And let's look at a couple more. We've got the meme here. Remember, the meme makes the m sound. So when we have a kasra below the meme, then it would make the mi sound. Mi. Okay? And the nun, when it has the fatha above it, it would be the n sound plus the a sound. So it would be na. Okay? So very straightforward. Again, they make the same sound as the solo letters with the different harakats. The sounds do not change. It's just the appearance. Okay? So again, that was a quick demonstration of all of the letters in Arabic when they are the first letter of a word. When they are the first letter or the starting letter of a word. And in the next class, we're going to be looking at how these letters appear when they are in the middle of a word, meaning that a letter comes before it and a letter comes directly after it. So once you've really understood this class here, I want you to go back to your Anki decks and just unlock the deck that refers to the starting letters or how the letters look at the start, okay? There's a separate deck within that whole pack there for starting letters with a dhamma, starting letters with a fatha, and starting letters with a kasra. So just unsuspend all of those three decks and work your way through all of them, inshallah. As always, I will see you in the next one.